Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to extract the essential knowledge from complex source material, giving you that shortcut to being, well, genuinely informed.
Great to be here.
Today, our mission is to really get inside the newest generation of global green building standards. We're diving deep into the documentation for LEED project priorities, specifically PRc1.
Yeah, and this isn't just a minor tweak. PRc1 represents a pretty massive philosophical shift, wouldn't you say? It changes how sustainable projects get conceived and rewarded.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For years, I think the public and maybe even many professionals saw these certifications as, a standardized checklist. Do X, Y, Z, get your points. Simple.
A bit like ticking boxes, yeah.
Exactly. But the sources we've got here, they outline a radical move away from that uniformity. PRc1, this project priorities credit, it's worth 9 points. That's huge.
It really is a significant chunk of the total score.
And it's the space where just meeting the standard isn't enough. It's where real, creative, context-specific problem-solving and genuine innovation, that's where it has to happen.
Right. The framework is explicitly set up to reward buildings that respond directly to their location, their community, their specific environmental challenges. It's forcing that local focus.
Okay, let's unpack this then. And hey, if you want more deep dives like this, exploring innovation, policy, all that essential knowledge, make sure you subscribe right now. You definitely want to hear more about this world.
Definitely subscribe. This PRc1 knowledge is, I'd say, truly essential for anyone touching infrastructure, construction, development, really the future of how we build.
So why is it so essential? What's the core problem it's trying to solve?
Well, it directly tackles what many saw as the Achilles heel of any global standard, the inherent flaw.
Which is?
How can one single checklist possibly work equally well for a building in, say, the middle of a desert, dealing with extreme heat and water scarcity,
Right.
versus one maybe on a rainy coast facing sea level rise or seismic risks? The needs are just fundamentally different.
Yeah, the old system kind of struggled with that, didn't it? Felt a bit generic sometimes.
It did. LEEV5 introduces PRc1 as the definitive mechanism for forcing that customization and also for encouraging really high ambition.
And the documentation lays it out.
Very clearly, it offers, like you said, a possible 9 points. That's a huge incentive. And achieving those points happens through 5 distinct, sometimes overlapping pathways.
5 pathways.
Okay.
And these challenge teams to define what leadership actually means for their specific project in their specific place.
Precisely. No more one-size-fits-all leadership.
All right, 9 points. That's a massive potential swing in the score. Just including that tells you USGBC sees this localization, this innovation. It's not just a nice to have anymore, is it?
Not at all. It's foundational. It signals what they believe future sustainability leadership requires.
So let's start right there with the intent behind PRc1. Why dedicate so many points, such a high value, to this flexible category? What's the fundamental goal?
The source docs actually outline a dual intent, 2 core goals, and you really need to grasp both to understand LEV5's direction. It's not just about compliance. It's about purpose.
Okay, goal number 1.
Goal 1 is laser-focused on fixing that checklist problem through localization. The official intent languages. To promote achievement of credits that address geographically sensitive or adaptation-specific environmental, social equity, and public health priorities.
Okay. Geographically sensitive, adaptation-specific. Environmental, social equity, public health. That's a lot packed in there.
It is. It's the formal acknowledgement that, real sustainability can't be separated from its environment or its community.
I think that's maybe the most profound shift we're seeing in the source material here. It signals that sustainability performance isn't purely technical, right? It's not just about optimizing pumps and fans inside the building.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging and responding to those external local pressures, the real-world context.
And the documentation is specific about those 3 areas: environmental, social equity, public health.
Yep, very specific. They are the 3 critical lenses PRc1 forces you to look through when figuring out your project's local priority.
Okay, let's take them one by one. Environmental priorities. What does that mean in practice?
It means project teams have to go way beyond just generic energy modeling. They need to tackle the specific ecological concerns of that location.
So give me an example.
Okay. Say your site is in a coastal area facing rapid sea level rise. Your main environmental priority has to include resilience, flood mitigation. Maybe you'd aim for exemplary performance points in a credit like rainwater management by designing for extreme storm events.
Right.
But if you're building somewhere inland, maybe known for terrible air quality,
Hmm.
your priorities shifts completely. Now it's about outdoor air filtration, maybe strategies to cut down on car emissions related to the building, minimizing construction dust. The source makes it clear the actual ecological challenges of the site dictate the priority.
Makes the project relevant.
Mm.
Okay, that feels pretty intuitive for environmental stuff. But what about social equity? That sounds harder to quantify than, say, carbon emissions or water use.
It definitely is more complex.
How does the documentation make sure this isn't just, a vague feel-good metric? How do you measure equity in a building standard?
That's a really critical question. And the documentation handles it by demanding measurable outputs, not just good intentions. Social equity priorities have to directly connect the building's performance, even its physical presence, to defined community needs. And there's a specific focus on mitigating historical inequities.
Measurable outputs.
Like what? It could involve mandatory quantifiable actions. For instance, maybe requiring project teams to partner with local workforce development nonprofits. The goal, ensure, say, 15% of the construction jobs go to local residents or people from historically underrepresented groups in the trades. That's measurable.
Okay, so tying it to hiring. What else?
Site access is another big one. Making sure amenities, maybe bite storage, a green roof, community meeting rooms, aren't just for the tenants, but are genuinely accessible to the surrounding neighborhood.
How would you measure that?
You could mandate, for example, that 75% of residents living within, say, a quarter-mile radius have clear, safe pedestrian access to a specific site feature, like a publicly accessible garden or plaza created by the project. It goes beyond just basic ADA accessibility. It's about designing for real community integration and benefit.
So we're talking about potentially tying ADA points directly to things like enforceable community benefit agreements, or
Yeah.
maybe super transparent hiring and access policies.
Exactly. That brings real, measurable impact, which then links nicely to the third element, public health.
Right, public health. How does that get prioritized?
Public health priorities connect the building's design choices directly to the physical well-being of occupants and the neighbors. AD always cared about indoor air quality, obviously,
Sure.
but a project priority focus might push a team much further. Say the project is right next to a major highway in a dense city. The public health priority might shift to requiring, like, hospital-grade filtration systems specifically designed to mitigate traffic pollution, NOx particulates, that sort of thing. And maybe even demanding continuous air quality monitoring inside and outside with transparent public reporting of those metrics, so the community knows what's going on.
And it extends beyond the building's walls, too.
Oh, definitely. Think about transportation. If the local public health data shows high rates of asthma or other respiratory illnesses, the project might get priority points for investing heavily in infrastructure that encourages clean transit, going way beyond just putting in a few bike racks. Maybe investing in a shared electric vehicle fleet for the building and the community, or subsidizing public transit passes for occupants to actively cut down on neighborhood traffic pollution.
Wow. So taking all three together, environmental, social equity, public health.
Yeah.
What's the big picture for this first goal of PRc1?
It means PRc1 essentially transforms sustainability from just an internal building efficiency exercise into something more like an integrated civic response mechanism. The building becomes an active participant in solving local problems.
A civic response mechanism. I like that.
Yeah, and that perfectly sets up the second goal of PRc1, which is more forward-looking.
Yeah.
It's about the evolution of the rating system itself.
Okay, what's goal number 2?
The documentation says it's to encourage projects to think creatively, to test and accelerate new sustainable building practices and strategies.
So this is the innovation accelerator part.
Exactly. It's a deliberate, highly valued reward system for projects that basically act as living laboratories, field tests for new ideas.
And dedicating 9 points overall gives it teeth.
Huge teeth. USGBC is essentially using these points to crowdsource its own future standards. These points are earmarked for those truly leading-edge projects, the ones testing new materials, new processes, new tech that's maybe too unproven or too complex to just mandate for everyone right now.
So the projects do the risky R&D.
And in return for points, they provide the rigorous documentation, the performance data, the proof that it works. That allows USGBC to then refine the idea, de-risk it, and maybe, just maybe, integrate it as a standard LEED credit or prerequisite in the next version, LEED V6 or whatever comes next.
So it keeps the rating system agile, stops it from getting stuck in the past.
Precisely. It ensures LED doesn't stagnate.
Okay, that dual intent localization and acceleration makes a lot of sense. It perfectly frames these 5 pathways you mentioned. Let's dig into the first 2 pathways now. These seem to deal directly with how USGBC customizes the standard based on where you're building and what kind of building it is.
Yeah, exactly. These first two pathways acknowledge that fundamental variability in construction, true sustainability just isn't uniform. It has to be context dependent.
So, pathway number 1.
Pathway 1 is regional priority. Pretty straightforward concept. To earn points here, the project documentation states they must achieve a regional priority credit from USGBC's Project Priority Library.
Okay, a project priority library. So USGBC maintains this database.
Right. And this is the hard mechanism that basically forces project teams to focus on the highest priority local needs, as identified by USGBC for that specific region.
So let's go back to that Miami example. If I'm developing there, the system might essentially flag certain credits and say, look, before you get excited about, I don't know, your recycled content points, you absolutely must address stormwater management and resilience, because that's the critical issue for South Florida. Is that how it works?
That's exactly the implication. The documentation confirms these credits are flagged as having additional regional importance for the project's specific zip code or region.
So the library is geographically intelligent.
Yes, it's dynamic. Think about a desert climate like Phoenix. Maybe 4 of the 9 PRc1 points are automatically tied to achieving specific credits focused on water performance optimization and heat island reduction. Those might be the non-negotiable priorities there.
Okay.
But then a project in, say, the Chesapeake Bay watershed, which struggles with nutrient runoff, might find its 4 mandatory regional points tied to credits focused on sustainable site development, erosion control, and maybe advanced nutrient management and stormwater.
But isn't that quite prescriptive? I mean, doesn't that impose a significant mandate? If a developer has already designed a building optimized for, let's say, material efficiency, but their regional priority demands a massive investment in water conservation tech, that could really throw off the budget and the design, couldn't it?
It absolutely imposes a mandate, but that's precisely the point. It forces relevance.
Okay.
The underlying philosophy seems to be that a building performing brilliantly in a vacuum but completely ignoring the most urgent local environmental or social crisis,
Yeah.
well, that building isn't truly sustainable in context.
Right. It's detached from reality.
Exactly. So by tying these high-value PRc1 points to these regional flags, the rating system changes. It goes from being just a menu of green options to becoming, in effect, a tool for implementing localized policy and mitigation strategies.
So it ensures the building actually contributes to solving immediate site-specific problems.
And thereby raises the bar for required performance in those high-stakes areas. It makes the certification mean something locally.
Okay, that covers the location adjustment. Pathway 2 then adjusts for the building's function. This is project-type credits.
Yes. Pathway 2 is about credits addressing the unique needs for the given adaptation or building application.
Adaptation. What does that mean here?
It refers to the different LEED rating system adaptations like building design and construction, BD+C, interior design and construction, ID+C, operations and maintenance, O+M, etc. And building application refers to the specific building type.
Right. So acknowledging the huge difference between, say, an airport terminal, a hospital, a university science lab, and a residential tower.
Exactly. Each one has a totally unique operational profile, a unique impact, and unique performance requirements. You can't judge them all by the exact same yardstick.
And the source documentation links this pathway to that variety.
Implicitly, yes. Think about a standard BD+C new construction project, maybe a commercial office tower. Its project-type priorities might naturally focus on credits related to optimizing occupant thermal comfort, maybe access to daylight, and views things critical for office worker productivity and well-being.
Okay, standard office stuff. But what about something highly specialized, like a lab or a hospital? Their needs might actually conflict with some standard energy efficiency goals, right?
Yeah.
All that ventilation.
Absolutely. Take a research lab. Huge energy draw, primarily driven by ventilation, sometimes 100% outside air changes for safety and to maintain sterile conditions. Very energy intensive.
So how would project-type credits apply there?
For that lab, a project type credit might flag optimized energy performance, specifically related to things like high efficiency heat recovery systems for all that exhaust air, or maybe material credits focused on ultra low off gassing of VOCs because of the sensitive environment, things that wouldn't be the top priority for an office.
Or maybe a warehouse.
Yeah.
Or a data center. Occupant comfort isn't the main driver there.
Right. For a massive warehouse or data center, the project type credits might focus intensely on reducing the embodied carbon in those huge structural elements, the concrete, the steel, or on optimizing the energy efficiency of the server racks or the logistics equipment, which are the main energy users.
So this pathway makes sure that pursuing LEED isn't just this generic exercise. It becomes a demonstration of tailored expertise for that specific building's function.
Exactly. It recognizes that excellence in a hospital looks fundamentally different from excellence in an apartment block or a warehouse.
And it provides tailored benchmarks. It prevents unfair comparisons between, say, a naturally ventilated school and an energy-hogging laboratory. Both can achieve high later ratings, but by excelling in different relevant areas.
Precisely. It validates sustainability leadership across the entire spectrum of the built environment, no matter how specialized the building is.
Okay, pathways 1 and 2 are about tailoring the standards. Now, this is where, for me, it gets really interesting. We're moving beyond customization into, well, the realm of true mastery and forward-thinking design.
Yeah, these next two pathways are definitely for the ambitious teams.
The ones aiming not just for compliance, but for absolute peak achievement, right? Setting the bar higher.
That's the idea. Pathway 3 is exemplary performance, EKEY. The definition is key. Going above and beyond an existing LEED V5 prerequisite or credit requirement.
So this isn't inventing something new yet. This is mastering the current system, pushing its boundaries.
Exactly. Pushing the limits of what's considered achievable under the established standards. Often it means literally achieving double the quantitative requirement of a standard credit or hitting the next level of qualitative rigor.
And the source material is quite prescriptive here, isn't it? It says you can't just claim EP for any credit you happen to do well on.
That's right. It has to be achieved within one of 6 specific designated LEED V5 priority areas. These are strategically critical.
And listing them really tells you where the industry focus is, what UFGBC considers the most urgent challenges for the future. What are the 6?
The documentation identifies them as scale, decarbonization, resilience, health, equity, and ecosystems.
Okay. Scale, decarbonization, resilience, health, equity, ecosystems. Let's break those down. What does above and beyond actually look like in practice for each one? Starting with scale.
Scale is about broadening the impact. A standard credit might reward optimizing energy in just one building. Exemplary performance in scale means applying that positive impact across, say, an entire campus, a portfolio of buildings, or a whole district.
So thinking bigger than one project.
Right. For example, hitting a standard energy reduction target in your building is good. Achieving EP and scale might mean you implemented a shared, super efficient district energy system serving 10 buildings, and you can document a measured 40% energy reduction across the entire complex. That's multiplying the impact synergistically. It's about systemic thinking.
Got it. Next, decarbonization. Standard LED V5 will already demand pretty serious energy efficiency and likely some focus on embodied carbon. What does exemplary look like here? This must be tough.
Oh, it's incredibly tough. Standard V5 will push operational efficiency and maybe basic embodied carbon tracking. Exemplary performance and decarbonization is pushing towards verified life cycle net zero carbon or maybe even net positive carbon performance.
Net zero or net positive.
Yeah. It means basically eliminating fossil fuel use on site and deeply addressing the embodied carbon in the materials used to build it. A project might get EP here by using mass timber for its structure, sequestering carbon, or maybe integrating biochar into the landscaping or concrete mix to actively draw down atmospheric CO2. It's not just reducing emissions, it's taking action to negate the building's entire carbon footprint over its lifespan. That's the absolute top tier of climate action in building.
Okay, that's huge. Then we have resilience. Climate change risks are accelerating floods, heat waves, wildfires. How does a project demonstrate EP in adaptation? More than just a backup generator, I assume.
Way more. EP and resilience is about designing for sustained functionality and what's called passive survivability, even when things go very wrong.
Passive survivability.
Yeah, it means designing the building envelope and passive systems, things like thermal mass, natural ventilation pathways, strategic shading and daylighting, so that if all power and utilities fail during an extreme event,
Hmm.
the building can maintain safe, habitable conditions inside, say, keeping temperatures within a tolerable range, maybe 50, 80 degrees Fav or 10, 27 degrees C, and managing humidity for a defined, sustained period.
Well,
Often the documentation requires proving this for 72 hours or more with no external energy input.
designing it to coast through a crisis.
Exactly. And it also involves detailed climate risk modeling for the specific site, ensuring the structure itself can withstand predicted future hazards, like designing critical systems above the projected 100-year flood level plus anticipated sea level rise.
That really shifts the focus from just preventing damage to ensuring the building can continue to function and protect occupants. Okay, next up, health. How do you measure above and beyond basic, good indoor air quality and comfort?
EP in health typically involves two key things: really deep material rigor and verified health outcomes. Standard LED needs good air. EP might demand that all specified interior materials meet the incredibly strict criteria of an external standard, like the Living Building Challenge's Red List Chemical Avoidance List, or maybe demonstrating exceptional acoustic performance in a school proven to enhance learning.
And the verified outcomes part.
Crucially, EP here often mandates post-occupancy data collection. The project team has to actually track occupant well-being, maybe through surveys, measuring satisfaction and reported health symptoms, or even cognitive performance tests, and then submit verified data showing that their specific design strategy led to measurable, positive health outcomes for the people inside, proving the investment actually worked.
Closing the loop.
All
Okay,
right.
fifth priority, equity. This one feels like the trickiest to measure rigorously. What does exemplary performance look like for fairness and community impact?
Yeah, this is challenging, but EP in equity demands verifiable proof of sustained community benefit that actively tackles social justice issues. It has to go way beyond minimum inclusion efforts.
Examples.
Could be establishing mandatory local hiring goals that are significantly higher than average, maybe 20% of subcontracts reserved for certified minority or women-owned businesses, MWBEs, or integrating community land trusts or dedicated affordable housing units directly into the project's financial model.
So embedding equity into the structure of the deal itself.
Right. Or maybe funding and providing permanent on-site community resources like free public Wi-Fi hotspots, electric vehicle charging available to the neighborhood, dedicated maker spaces or educational facilities that are genuinely free and accessible to everyone nearby, not just tenants. The documentation has to prove the project demonstrably reduced existing community burdens or inequities, like maybe cleaning up historical pollution from the site's previous industrial use and turning it into a public park.
Making a tangible, positive difference. Okay, finally, ecosystems. Standard LE encourages protecting the site, maybe adding some green space. How does a project demonstrate a truly positive ecological impact for EP?
EP in ecosystems often requires the project to be ecologically net positive, usually focusing on restoring habitat and managing the water cycle exceptionally well. It means going far beyond just minimizing harm within the property line.
Net positive ecosystem impact.
Yeah, a project might achieve EP by designing and implementing stormwater systems that perfectly mimic the site's pre-development hydrology, meaning water leaves the site at the same rate, same volume, same quality as if the site were still a pristine natural landscape. That's incredibly hard to do. And it requires significant documented investment in biodiversity, maybe restoring or creating high-quality native habitat on or off-site at an area significantly larger than what was disturbed during construction. And then, crucially, monitoring that habitat to track the successful return of native plant and animal species, proving the restoration actually worked. It's about making the building site an active contributor to local ecological health.
Turning development into restoration. That's a paradigm shift.
It really is. And by focusing this demanding EP pathway specifically on these 6 areas, scale, decarbonization, resilience, health, equity, and ecosystems, the sources clearly signal what the industry sees as the most critical battlegrounds for the future of the built environment.
Absolutely clear. And that intense focus leads us right into Pathway 4, pilot credits. If EP is about mastering the current standards,
Then pilot credits are about road testing the future standards, proving new ideas work before they're officially adopted.
so how does this work?
A project team chooses to pursue a pilot credit. These are housed in that same project priority library we talked about, but they aren't yet part of the main LEED V5 rating system language. They're explicitly designated as pilot.
They're experimental.
Yeah, exactly. They're the live testing grounds. Let's say a team picks a pilot credit focused on something cutting edge, like advanced real-time monitoring of building metabolism involving complex sensor networks, maybe AI analytics, constant data streams about energy, water, air quality, occupancy.
Okay, sounds complex.
It is. By successfully implementing this pilot credit and meeting its requirements, the project team not only earns points towards their PRc1 total, but they also provide invaluable feedback to USGBC.
What kind of feedback?
Real-world performance data, detailed technical documentation on how they did it, challenges they faced, cost implications, suggestions for refining the credit language or the compliance thresholds, all of that gets fed back.
So USGBC uses that pilot project experience
To assess the strategy's feasibility, refine it, make it more robust, maybe simplify the documentation. It paves the way for that pilot strategy to potentially be integrated formally into the next version of IL. This pathway is absolutely essential for keeping the rating system agile and responsive to rapid technological change and emerging best practices.
Okay, pathways 1 through 4 all leverage or accelerate standards that are in some way already defined or being tested by USGBC. But this final pathway, number 5, innovative strategies. This sounds like the true frontier.
It absolutely is. This is where the project team doesn't just adopt or push an existing idea. They essentially have to invent and formally propose a brand new sustainable strategy.
One that's completely novel to the LEED rating system itself.
Completely novel, and they have to prove it's measurable, significant, and effective.
So this requires the highest level of rigor.
By far. The core criterion, straight from the source, is the project must achieve significant, measurable environmental performance using a strategy not addressed in the LEED-5 green building rating system.
Not addressed at all. So this can't just be a slightly better version of something already in LEED. That would fall under exemplary performance, right?
Correct. EP is about doing better on an existing metric. Innovation is about addressing something entirely new or using a fundamentally different approach that the current credits don't recognize or measure.
Yeah. Can you give an example of what might qualify?
Sure. Imagine a project pioneers a completely new type of bioreactor facade system that cultivates microalgae, harvests it, and generates usable biofuel on-site, significantly offsetting building energy use.
Okay, sounds futuristic.
Or maybe they integrate a novel geothermal exchange system that uses deep earth loops combined with seasonal thermal storage to provide ultra-efficient heating and cooling, but its unique benefits aren't captured by existing HVAC or renewable energy credits. If the current system simply doesn't have a box to tick for that specific strategy's benefits, the team has to prove its value through this innovation pathway.
That sounds amazing in theory. But Pathway 5 essentially demands that the project team write a draft for a potential new ILLI credit themselves, doesn't it? The documentation burden must be enormous.
It is.
Is that realistic? Especially for smaller architecture firms or developers who might not have big dedicated R&D departments? How does the source material acknowledge the time, the cost, the expertise required for that level of original work?
You've absolutely nailed the main operational challenge here. The potential point reward is high, but the burden of proof is equally high, maybe even higher.
And the documentation makes that clear.
Oh, extremely clear. It's explicit. This isn't just like submitting a suggestion. You are essentially submitting a complete blueprint for a potential future LED standard. The required documentation package mirrors the rigor you'd expect when submitting, say, a formal technical standard proposal or a peer-reviewed scientific white paper. It's serious business.
Okay, so let's break down the specific requirements. The source demands 4 mandatory criteria be identified for any proposed innovative strategy. What are they? They must define this heavy burden of proof.
Right. 4 key things the project team must define and document. First, the intent of the proposed innovation strategy.
What problem does it solve? What's the goal?
Exactly. You have to state precisely what sustainability goal this new strategy targets. For instance, the intent of this strategy is to eliminate the use of potable water for all non-process building functions, including toilet flushing and irrigation, through a novel, closed-loop atmospheric water generation and recycling system. It has to be specific, measurable, and focused.
Okay, define the intent. Second,
they must outline the proposed requirements for compliance. This is crucial because it establishes the quantifiable rules for success. How do you know if you've achieved the intent?
right. If the strategy is totally new, how does a reviewer measure success? And just as importantly, how could another project team replicate it later?
Precisely. So the requirements need to be numerical, achievable, and verifiable. Using that atmospheric water example, the requirement might be demonstrate via submetering that the system provides 100% of non-potable water demand for eligible fixtures for 12 consecutive months, with generated water quality consistently meeting EPA standards for reclaimed water use, verified by quarterly third-party testing. It has to be black and white, removing subjective judgment.
Okay, intent requirements. Third criterion.
Third, they must detail a proposed submittals to demonstrate compliance. This is the evidence package. What paperwork proves you met the requirements?
The proof packet. Got it.
This defines the entire evidence trail needed for verification. For that water system, the submittals would have to include things like detailed engineering drawings and calculations, manufacturer specifications for the novel generation and filtration equipment, a narrative explaining the operational procedures and maintenance plan, and, critically, 12 months of actual meter data proving the 100% potable water offset and the quarterly water quality test results. The reviewer needs to see exactly what documentation trail future projects would need to follow to successfully earn this potential new credit.
Laying out the whole compliance process.
All right.
And the fourth and final criterion.
Finally, the team must thoroughly describe the design approach or strategies used to meet the requirements. This is the how-to part.
The methodology.
Exactly. It ensures the innovation isn't just a successful outcome that maybe only worked due to unique circumstances, but that it's based on a documented, repeatable process others can learn from and potentially adapt. This section needs to detail the physical design choices, any specific technological integration, maybe novel material science involved, and the coordination needed between different design disciplines and construction trades. It provides the practical implementation guide for the innovation.
So it ensures the knowledge gained isn't lost.
Right. It makes it potentially viable for broader industry adoption if USGBC decides the innovation is successful and important enough to standardize later on.
What's really fascinating here, though, despite that incredibly high burden of proof, is the strategic value this offers, right?
Definitely.
Pathway 5 effectively allows the most ambitious developers, the ones willing to invest in truly cutting-edge tech or strategies, to basically de-risk that investment somewhat. Well, by validating the technology's performance and reliability through the globally recognized LE framework, they get to prove it works, document it rigorously, and earn these high-value PRc1 points in the process. It provides third-party validation.
That's a great point. It creates this really interesting symbiotic relationship. The developers get rewarded, get recognition for leading the pack, and the rating system itself ensures its own continuous data-driven evolution by capturing these breakthroughs.
It turns LEV5 into less of a static rulebook and more of a living document, ready to recognize and incorporate breakthroughs, maybe even ones that haven't fully hit the mainstream market yet.
Perfectly put. A living document, constantly learning from the field's pioneers. Hashtag outro.
Wow. Okay, this has been an incredibly detailed look under the hood of, really, the next generation of green building standards.
Yeah.
We started this deep dive realizing that the old way, the traditional checklist approach to sustainability, well, it had some serious flaws.
Especially its inability to really handle local context or keep up with rapid innovation.
Exactly. And we found the answer, or at least Lee's proposed answer, in this Project Priorities credit, PRc1. It leverages 9 really valuable points across those 5 distinct pathways.
Regional priority, project type credits, exemplary performance, pilot credits, and that really demanding innovative strategies pathway.
Right. And taken together, they fundamentally shift sustainability. It moves from being this static, often generic checklist to becoming a much more customizable adaptive system. A system that's really driven by high ambition and, crucially, measurable local and community benefit.
The ultimate goal seems crystal clear when you look at it this way.
Okay.
To future-proof the rating system itself. By baking in this flexibility, this requirement for local relevance, and by explicitly rewarding the pioneers, the ones pushing the boundaries in those 6 critical areas.
Scale, decarbonization, resilience, health, equity, and ecosystems.
Right. They're ensuring the standard stays relevant and continues to drive meaningful progress on the biggest challenges we face.
This whole framework, PRc1, it feels like a potent reminder, doesn't it? That true sustainable leadership, it doesn't just lie in generic efficiency numbers anymore. It lies in context and ambition.
Absolutely. When a global standard dedicates such a huge chunk of its score, 9 points, solely to rewarding localized relevance and going above and beyond the baseline, that fundamentally changes the definition of what success looks like in green building. It's a powerful signal.
And it leaves us with a question, maybe something for you, the listener, to think about.
Yeah, this raises a really interesting point. How could this model, this idea of rewarding regional priority or exemplary performance, how might that apply outside of just buildings?
Where are you going with that?
Well, think about other large-scale systems that rely on standards, maybe national healthcare policies or public education curricula. Often these are applied pretty uniformly across vast, diverse regions, right?
Sure, one size fits many.
What would it look like if, say, an education policy included a quantifiable regional priority credit? Maybe points awarded to schools or districts for demonstrably effective programs designed to address specific, localized social challenges or even environmental crises impacting their particular students.
So building context sensitivity into other standardized systems.
Exactly. The push for context, the demand for relevance that we see driving PRc1, that core idea might have really broad implications for how we design for excellence and equity in almost any field that currently relies on standardized approaches. Something to mull over.
Definitely something to mull over.
Okay.
That deep dive is complete. But as always, the world of knowledge keeps turning, and so do we. Make sure you subscribe now so you don't miss our next exploration. You really do want to hear more about this world.